Hello, my friends. It is the 29th of January. It is Tuesday, and it is 2019. And it is snowing heavily outside. So I figured I would come right back in and make a video. Today's video is about the liberal left and their godless agenda in America. The left liberal political persuasion is so much because the current adherents are particularly despicable, but rather because the historic roots of that movement and the direction in which it aims the individual first and society second is indeed thoroughly despicable. The first requirements of any form of socialism or leftism, if you will, involves turning away from the Lord, from God. Marx's writing is quite fierce about that. Indeed, Marxism insists on dialectic materialism as a first stepping stone towards transcendental logic, which is needed to practice a pure logic that is freed from any input from God, or any belief in God, or any non-material, non-worldly inputs of any kind. It means no God, no Jesus, no church, no Bible. What we believe in. That's step one. Turn your face away from God. Turn your face towards the world. When we abandon our spiritual nature, we automatically emphasize our animal nature or animalistic nature. Most current leftists are unaware of the truth regarding the left. Indeed, in spite of the epic historical confrontations and clashes between variants of leftist socialist doctrine, most modern leftists believe that today. If you wear an American flag lapel pin, or if you sing all the words of the national anthem at ball games, then you must be a right-winger. Similarly, the dim bulbs that occupy the ranks of today's skinheads, Aryan Nation, American Nazi Party, and similar movements and gangs really don't know that they are most properly defined as leftists. That is true. Very true. As such, they should, but they don't, get along fine with the SLIMC1 and the rest of the Democratic Party. They're all birds of the same feather, but they're not smart enough to know nor understand that fact. Basically, National Socialism and Marxism are the same. Do you know who said that? Basically, National Socialism and Marxism is the same. You're going to be surprised, because I was surprised when I found out myself. 1941, Adolf Hitler said that. Very despicable, evil human being. Of that, there is no doubt. Engels wrote in 1849 about a program of racial extermination. Leftists and socialists don't like to talk openly about that today. It's a truth that needs to be properly deconstructed. First, so that it will not be taken literally or completely. But although socialists always avoid hard evidence still exists. Hitler's Mein Kampf described Nazism, National Socialism, as deriving from Marxism. There were not isolated, rare, out of context, or odd statements. These were the core values of socialism in Hitler. The Nazis felt that the communists had socialism all wrong and were creating herds rather than liberated workers who would more reliably displace the rule of capital. In the 1930s, genocide was an established practice and even a tradition of socialism, and of socialism alone. The Nazis used the Russian concentration camps as the model to emulate in making their own camps, which of course would be better Anywhere in the world, in any era, certainly in any almost any war, atrocities may be found to have been occurred. But flat-out concentrated and repeated genocide may only be found where authored by socialists. And extreme ideas and views favoring genocide and racism and anti-Semitism and clear racial favoritism and eugenics and ethnic cleansing and acts to purify or cleanse or restrict human bloodlines or create a more pure species of man may be found solely among the writings of socialists. Sorry, that is the way that it is. There's no way to sugarcoat it. That's the way it is. There is no non-socialist tradition of genocide in Europe. Genocide is socialist policy. And communism equals Nazism equals socialism equals Marxism equals leftism. Study it. You will find out that it is true. Try actually reading about it instead of just spouting someone else's nonsense. Go and actually do research on your own like I have and like many others on the internet do to bring you videos like this. Old-time socialists scoffed at the timid and soft attitudes of those not ruthless enough to do the hard things necessary to work towards utopia. And utopia to old-time socialists was strictly a white, Gentile, atheist sort of thing. Millions of people have to die. Well, you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. The ends justify the means. Tongue-tied today. Modern socialists avoid the subject, or they lie about it, or trivialize it, or deconstruct it. In actual practice, all existing socialist states are and were totalitarian dictatorships, which may have some complexities and formalities and bureaucracies or councils or Congress attached to them. But make no mistake about it. The Führer or the Premier or the General Secretary or whatever he chooses to call himself is in absolute command, always. That ceases to be true only when the nation begins to move away from socialism and socialistic views. In actual practice, a socialist revolution is nothing more than a purposeful destabilization and creation of turmoil, dissent, animosity, created for the sole purpose of giving an opportunity to someone who is not in power to get into power. The very ideas of socialism do that very thing by feeding the lowest instincts in man. We see that right now within the Democratic Party, actually within the Democratic Socialist Party, with these Congress people like Cortez and Tlaib and you got Bernie Sanders in the Senate that are offering ideas for all of this free stuff. Free health care, free education, free housing, free everything. But they don't offer up the solution to pay for it because there's only one solution to that. And that is to tax every dime out of you and me. It's the only way. And to decimate our military. The budget to be removed from our military and put into these freebies. That is really the way they do these things. And then, therefore, you leave yourself weakened by having a military that was once powerful, knocked all the way down to nothing. Really, it is that simple. But you won't hear that from them. That's the thing. To see similar root sources of communism, fascism, and Nazism all in one has to do is look what was written about them during the era of the birth of those systems. Hitler's Mein Kampf described Nazism, as I said, from deriving from Marxism. He stated in 1939 to Hermann Rausching that all National Socialism was based on Marx. In a public speech in 1941, in November of 1941, Hitler declared that basically National Socialism and Marxism are the same. This is fact. You can look it up. Goebbels wrote, Joseph Goebbels, his propaganda minister, wrote in 1941 about how after the Nazi victory, real national Nazi socialism would replace the Bolshevism in Russia. The Nazis felt that communism had socialism all wrong and were creating herds rather than liberated workers who would more reliably displace the rule of capital. High-ranking, uninformed Nazi officials not only attended and not only participated in, but ran the board and management meetings of German industry. The party decided that what would be produced in what quantity on what timetable. The means of production were ruthlessly controlled by the state, and this is very important, slave labor was provided by the state for use in this private industry. Like Hitler, Mussolini began his intellectual history as a socialist and ended as a fascist. The only difference between Hitler, Stalin, Mussolini, Marxists and all was personality. All seated government branches, houses or authorities under them were shams, lip service organizations, and everyone knew it. The simple rule from the dictator was, do as I say or I will kill you. That was the only real rule of law under all three systems. We must understand what is happening in this nation. These people that are continually pushing this agenda on Americans, and especially, I have to admit, on the younger generations that are coming up now. They are being taught this garbage in our public school systems to where they really are brainwashed by the time they graduate from high school, and then they go on into what I would call their secondary education or the university or colleges of this country, where the professors, which are mostly all leftists, all socialist and or communist, but we've just seen that it's basically same thing, end up polishing off these students from high school and rounding them off and making them very, very useful socialists, and they send them out into the world to preach this evil, godless doctrine onto the other people that has not heard this or doesn't know exactly what it entails. And that's why they spout all of this free stuff, because what works better if you think about it? What would draw more people in than offering them something for free? And they always say there's no strings attached. Do you ever notice that? They always say, we're going to give you free health care. We're going to give you a free education. We're going to give you free housing. We're going to just give you everything your little heart desires. All you have to do is sign your rights away to the state. And in this case, the government. You would be surprised, my friends, how many people would fall for that garbage. You'd be surprised. Socialism has been around for ages. It isn't just something that's just fallen off the tree recently. It's been around for a very long time. The first thing these governments, or if you want to call it that, do is they remove faith from the people, from the nation. They remove God from the nation. They remove the church. The first thing Stalin did when he came to power was close all of the churches and get rid of all of the priests, get rid of all of the preachers. That was one of the first things he did. And the ones that he did not kill, he sent to the infamous gulags in Siberia, to which they never returned from, because they basically either worked them to death or starved them to death, or both starved and worked them to death in sub-zero temperatures. That was the first thing. Hitler did the same thing when he came to power. First, he got rid of the Jewish church, before the synagogues. We know all about the Holocaust. We know all about the Night of Broken Glass, the Kristallnacht, all that went on with that. Then he went after the Catholic Church and the Christian Church. Went after that next. This is something they do. And if you do not think that it would not happen in America, then you are deluded. You're absolutely deluded. I know people call this, these new congressmen, you know, like Cortez and all, they say, they're nothing. They're just loons. They're crazy. There's only a couple of them. Well, you know what? If you'd have told me 10 years ago we'd have open socialists elected to Congress, I would have laughed in your face. Imagine in 10 years from now what would happen. Imagine if that Democratic Socialist Party becomes the main party of the Democrats. They are. Imagine if that were to happen. You'd have 40 socialists in Congress, and then 60. Then you'd have a majority. Then you'd have a majority in the Senate. Don't think it can't happen, my friends. That is the worst mistake you could ever make in your life. Do not think it could not happen in the United States of America. Do not think that. Because it can. And unless this nation continues with God and does not continue to throw him out like they've been doing and to turn their backs on God, then the only outlook we have is not a good outlook. Believe you that. I hope you have a good day today. I hope you're safe. If you're in my area in the state here of Maryland, be safe on the roads. It's very snowy out, and it's going to be that way for the next couple days. Take care of yourselves. God bless each and every one of you. I will see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.